call this meeting of the Strategic Planning Committee to order. And roll call, Councilman Barriga, Hillensbeck, McConnell, and Shakespeare are present. And Mike Bardwell and Alan Kraus with the Planning and Zoning Committee is also here. With that, Councilman McConnell, we welcome him back and we ask him to say a prayer.
Father in heaven, once again, we thank you for the many blessings that you have bestowed upon us, that you continue to bestow upon us. We ask that you always look down upon us, put your guiding hand upon our shoulders, give us the wisdom and the guidance that we need to make those decisions which are best for the people, your people of Ascension Parish. As always, Father, we ask you to look after our brothers and sisters in uniform who are protecting our lives tonight, whether they be here or in faraway lands. We ask that you protect them, keep them safe, and bring them home to their families soon. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I wanted to make an announcement to Councilman Todd Lambert is not here. He has a sister that is ill, and we want to let all of you know that she is in our prayers and ask you to put her on your prayer list also. Public comment period. We will open for public comment on the agenda item as it comes up, and you can fill out a card and speak on any agenda item. Number 4, Ascension Parish construction specification. Mr. Michael Songy has not been able to be here. Mr. Bill Rue will take this.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this has been going back and forth for a long time. We've put a lot of effort in revising construction specifications. I think we have a good document. We have a final meeting, hopefully it's a final meeting this Wednesday with the committee set up of contractors reviewing this with us. But we're almost at the point now of having the definitive final document. The administration recommends that we move forward to sending this document to the full council in the form of introduction of the ordinance. Between now and then, the final little details can be worked out, and we can do some of these changes during the introduction of the ordinance and public comment period of the ordinance process. So we recommend sending this document to the full council.
Okay. Before we have any further discussion, I wanted to allow Mr. Speaker, Mr. Billy Aguilar.
Thank you, Mr. Kent. It's my understanding from meeting with Mr. Bill earlier that we do have a meeting scheduled sometime Wednesday morning and to review the final document, and hopefully we can have everything corrected before it goes to the council. And if that is actually true, we have no objections to passing it.
Thank you. I just want to interject in there just for information for everybody. The basic construction specifications are all done. Everything has been, all the big aspects has been agreed upon pretty much by all parties that were involved in this. They have a few technical things, wording and such, that they want to correct before it goes to the council. But the nuts and bolts of the whole thing are done, and they're very, very satisfied with it. And unless you see something, I would like to open it up for anybody that has any areas within here, within these specifications that are concerned about, that we discuss that. Ms. McConnell.
Well, I just have a question, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. The copy that I have in front of me is dated April the 19th. I mean, is that the most current copy? Because we're here in July now, so that's 3 months, and I'm seeing some highlighted areas that I guess these are the latest revisions. This is the newest copy, but the committee hadn't met and looked at this since April the 19th.
That is the final copy, and in fact, I checked this afternoon with a review agent, CSRS, and he did advise me that this is the document that we're recommending approval, with the exception of a few little additional word changes. And I'll give you one right now that we came up with today, actually. Is wherever there's a mention of DPW we put in or designee. So we've not, things may change, and we want to have that wording in there so we can designate someone else in lieu of DPW, i.e. Engineering firm or our consultant engineer that can represent us there. A few other little changes like that is what we're going to go over, and some technical data changes Wednesday. But it's nothing that could keep us from taking this document to the full council for the introduction.
Yeah, then, Mr. Chairman, I would like to offer a motion that we recommend, that we request our legal advisor to place this in ordinance form so that it can be introduced pending the final recommendations from the committee that's going to meet in a couple of days. So I don't know how you want to word that exactly.
That was very
Maybe
good.
We can
I'll
get
second.
we can get that together, and so that we can go ahead and proceed with this and get it done and get it off the table.
We have a motion by Mr. McConnell, second by Mr. Hillingsbeck. Any comments, discussion? Yes, Mr. Baldwin.
Mr. Chairman, is that document itself going to be part of ordinance? I was under the impression that the ordinance just referenced Louisiana DOT standards instead of that. Is that document part of ordinance or not?
No. Ricky, correct me if I'm wrong.
The document is going to, the purported document will be referenced because it's adopting a local set of standards.
Right.
It's going away from DOTD standards.
Right. What we're recommending is that we put in ordinance form to adopt the local ordinance, the local information, construction
That's
specification that we put together. And
But
that's
that
it.
document right there, in case, that won't be in the form of ordinance.
No,
so
we don't have to have an ordinance to change it, because obviously you have to change specifications.
We don't want the ordinance to reference this.
Reference
We
that
did-
instead of DOT.
We did not want to go to something
But it is all right.
and right away find a number of things that were in conflict, and which is what, in the meetings with everybody involved, we found some conflict in wording and such. So, yes, sir, Mr. Pavin.
But it is our recommendation we adopt the standards that you will be applying to someone applying for a permit as part of that document, so that everybody knows what it is. So
Right.
we have asked that it be attached as an exhibit to the ordinance.
Right.
The ordinance will simply adopt the standards attached here to as Exhibit A. And Exhibit A is what they've been working on. That's the actual set of specifications that this council will adopt.
Did my motion adequately cover that, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Babbitt? Thank you.
With that, yes, sir.
And Mr. Lewis, of your opinion that it'll be relatively small changes or amendments to this particular ordinance after it's introduced?
After,
It won't be a
yes.
big, long,
Nothing that major. It's just some technical issues between that the contractors say instead of this we need that, and we went through major stuff already.
right.
It's all been
I just
agreed
don't
to.
want to make it really confusing
No.
during the meeting trying to make a bunch of amendments.
That's right. And let me tell you this: if in fact we come up with an impasse on some minor issues between us and the contractors, the fact of the matter is it still comes to the point where the administration or the parish, the DPW and CSRS, a review agent, we make final decision. So if we come to an impasse where they want one thing and we say no, we need something else, that's just the way it is. I mean, we're going to recommend to you our final document. And through the public comment period, they can present their case on a few little items, and if you agree with them, you can change it at that point. But we're going to make after Wednesday, we will make a final determination of the document that will be going to you.
And to let everybody, I've been privy to a couple of meetings that everybody has been involved in, and it has been very, very productive. People have listened, and it went very, very well. All the suggestions were very well taken and put forward, and so I really do not see any problem with it.
No, I would just like to ask and make sure that all of the changes are in the copy that is presented to the council when we introduce it, because I've seen some minor changes cause about 30 minutes of tap dancing up here when we actually come to actually adopting this thing. So just make sure we get the final version. You might want to make certain that the date is corrected on the bottom so that we're all sure of that. So that's cool. Thanks.
Any other discussions or comments? Any opposition? Without any further opposition, motion is passed. We will now recommend to the council that we adopt Ascension Parish construction specifications within our subdivision regulations.
Kent?
Yes, sir.
Can I make a little comment before we move on?
Yes, sir.
Try to be brief. Of course, I appreciate the job you've done in guiding us through this process. This is no small undertaking that we've accomplished, and of course, it's not passed yet by the council. It's still got to have council approval, but I also appreciate the builders and their input along the way. We've tried to give them every consideration into getting this document right, and I think for the people of Ascension Parish, it's going to be much improved over what we've had in the past. A lot of work and effort went into this, so thank you to the chairman.
Thanks, Ms. Hillenbeck, and you're absolutely right. There was a lot of people in this parish that put a lot of time and work ethic to make things better, and we're going to try to continue doing that. Next, number 5, burning ordinance. Mr. Hillenbeck.
Right. You have before you tonight the draft ordinance that I think is something that the parish needs. I'm getting calls from constituents, excuse me, that are complaining about people burning trash, plastics, tires, what have you, on their properties. You've got a lot of children in the parish that are have breathing difficulties, that are asthmatic, different allergies and what have you, and you also got a large segment of the population, senior citizens, that also have difficulty with breathing, and this is an ordinance to help address some of those situations. I hope you've had a chance to look over it. If not, I'd be willing to ask maybe Mr. Babin to read it to the committee, and we'll go through it a line at a time, and if you have any problems, I'm certainly open to discussion on it, but I do feel like we need to move forward on it, and it's just a couple of pages. Ricky, would you mind reading it to make sure, let's go over it and see if anyone's got any problems with what we have here before us?
Whereas the Ascension Parish finds uncontrolled burning of trash.
I don't think that's what he meant in this matter. I just, how about if we say, here's what you can't do and here's what you can do?
Well, that's fine, either way. If you want to summarize it for us, either way.
I'll stipulate the whereases and the therefores.
The first part of the ordinance is a general prohibition that no person shall cause or allow the outdoor burning of trash, waste, refuge, vegetation, or other combustible material on any property owned by him or under his control, except provided in the exceptions. And there are certain exceptions that are in this. The first one is the burning as part of it.
Pull your mic down a little bit.
The first one is part of an agricultural enterprise. The second one is outdoor burning in connection with the preparation of food, i.e. barbecues. Campfires and fires. Campfires and fires usually solely for the recreational purposes or for ceremonial occasions. Small fires by tradesmen, contractors, and such activities as street repair, installation, and repair of sewer, water, electric, telephone mains and services. Operation of contrivances using open flames such as welding torches, portable heaters, and other flame-making devices. And outdoor burning of trees, brush, grass, or other vegetable matter from such area in land clearing and right-of-way maintenance operations if the following conditions are met. It's got note this closely, the number of feet you have to be from another dwelling that's not located on the property. You can't burn heavy oils, asphalt, or materials containing natural or synthetic rubber, or materials other than plant growth. Burning shall be conducted, and it gives you the hours. Burning should be controlled so a traffic hazard is not created. Small trash household fires are allowed as long as they do not contain oils, rubbers, plastics, PVCs, or other materials that produce unreasonable amounts of smoke. And also note the distance from a dwelling or structure, and nothing preventing the burns for drilling of firefighting personnel, and it provides a penalty for its violation. That's a summary of what it does.
I guess the question I have is based on this, what we have before us, is this a reasonable ordinance to attempt to try to correct some of the problems that we're facing, our citizens are facing across the parish? Is there anything in here that's maybe out of line that we need to reconsider?
I think probably the only thing is that we need to identify densely populated. Now, do you have it just in subdivisions or densely populated areas? And we can use some areas that are identified maybe by medium intensity and commercial or something like that. But
That's a
I
good
think
point.
I think the idea of densely populated subdivisions is something that is not really defined.
Right. I agree with you.
And
Yeah.
so we just need to define that.
Don't read too much into the densely populated language,
Yes.
because the densely populated language is modified by the ordinance itself, which talks about within 500 feet and 1,000 feet, depending on what you're burning. So the density itself is defined within inside of the ordinance.
Okay.
So bear that in mind. Don't use the term density and confuse it with our zoning regulations that define density as something else.
Okay, so it's defined in the ordinance as
This tells you
500
how many
feet and
feet from a
1,000.
residence you
Okay.
have to be. It's got its own rules.
So it's
and
taking
voting.
care of that. Okay.
I'm
Yes,
just
sir,
saying.
Mr. Aguilar, since we, yes, sir. Could you come up to the mic, please?
Excuse me, Mr. Baumann, what is the footage distance from residence that you can burn if you're, say, clearing a subdivision and you have to burn so many feet from other residences? What is that footage?
1,000 feet,
1,000 feet.
except if the building's on your property, if the property itself. So if you're clearing 100 acres and there's buildings on that 100 acres, you
Not
can
your
build
own
next
building,
to
it's
it.
your neighbor's buildings, basically.
1,000
Right.
feet from the fire.
Thank you.
And the small household fires are within
Yeah.
500 feet from another structure that's not on the property.
Billy, is that reasonable? Is that something you think the builders can live with and work
I
around?
believe that basically follows the state DEQ regulations.
Exactly.
If you have a permitted air curtain, you can burn a little closer than that from the residence. I don't know what the exact distances is, but the normal open burning requirement for DEQ is about 1,000 feet from any
Yes, it
residence, not including the one that you own on your own property.
What about the time restraints, 8 to 5 p.m. burning? Have you pile burnt in those hours? Is that reasonable as well? Do we need to?
If you're doing a large land clearing job, if you light a big fire, it's not going to go out at 5 o'clock. It's going to burn all night. It might burn for 4 or 5 days. That would be the only thing that I'll see. Actually, DEQ doesn't regulate that. They say you can burn 24 hours a day, but it has to be, if you're doing open burning without an air curtain, it has to be a minimum of 1,000 foot from a neighborhood residence.
Well, maybe we need to take the hours out then, because
I was
if
wondering
that's
what-
going to create a problem for some
What the
people.
potential problem would be if they would burn at night. I don't see any,
I would think the potential of pollution is lower at night.
Well, we can strike that statement. The burning may be conducted only between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m.
I really don't think it's, I echo Mr. Aguilar, I don't think it's practical because burning of trees and such is going to last at least a day or night or two.
If normally if you clear, say, a 50-acre subdivision, it may take you a week to burn everything
Yes.
on that subdivision.
Right.
What we try to do is log everything out of it and haul everything out that we can haul out that's big,
Just
except
burn
the
the
stumps.
scraps, yeah.
But once you light stumps and stumps get burning, it takes them a week to burn out.
Right.
You want to just strike number 3 then?
I would recommend that we strike number 3.
I think that'd fall under emergency order, really. Be covered probably by an emergency declaration. That's a good point,
You want to address, Willie? Mr.
I live
Clinton?
on about 4 acres, and right now I have a pile of leaves and limbs that would cover that entire area 10 foot high. Because we have no leaf pickup. I have no leaf pickup, and I'm hesitant to set it on fire because it's so big, quite honestly. Because I got neighbors got swimming pools, and they get awfully unhappy. So, and I'm kind of just stuck with it there right now. But a lot of that was from the hurricane, because I 3/4 of my lot's wooded. Maybe you want to add an emergency thing for hurricanes that the council can invoke. Because we got to clean up after hurricanes. Burning is about the only practical method.
Well, we, on our hurricane preparedness and everything, it's all directives allowed by emergency order by the parish president has always allowed
So
different things to
you don't
occur
think
that wasn't that wasn't within ordinances. Mr. Babin, do you see any,
You know.
foresee any problem with us having emergency conditions like that?
I wouldn't
Or
limit it
should
to,
we
I wouldn't
put-
limit it to hurricane. I'd say inclement weather, something of the sort. You may have a
Yeah.
tornado or other weather conditions, but no problem. You can make whatever exceptions you
I
want.
just thought you needed,
Right.
I'm
And
waiting
again,
to do away with that
Will,
debris.
this is really, it's not a restriction on burning leaves and limbs and what have you. This is about people burning plastics and tires and
I believe
The
that's
pro-
illegal
the problem
already.
is
You
that-
can't burn tires and you can't burn plastic.
Yeah.
You can't burn creosote. It's already restricted by DEQ.
Yeah,
But there's nothing wrong with the ordinance.
right, right. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, couldn't that, I mean, you get in a situation where the council can vote to suspend certain
Mhm.
rules, certain things, during certain times. I mean, if you have and correct me, Mr. Babin, if you have a hurricane, a state of emergency, and you want to, the parish council wants to suspend this rule or amend this rule for a certain amount of time, so you can clean your yards and do certain things, I think the council is.
Well, that can be done administratively.
That's it. I mean, you don't have to put a lot of these exceptions into this. You can make those exceptions at the point in time that they occur, I think.
I don't think the administration can
Do,
Not the administration,
administratively
but
change an ordinance.
if it's,
But if you want something in
if it's
here to
declared an
suspend it, it needs to
emergency,
be in this ordinance.
if it's declared an emergency,
I would still feel more comfortable if you put
Yeah.
in this ordinance
Okay.
that it will be suspended upon declaration of emergency by the parish president.
okay.
And for how long? I
All right,
don't think
or
that.
can we do it by permit? Okay. How do you want to word that?
Burning shall be permitted burning is permitted under the declaration of emergency by the parish president.
Okay.
Put it number 3.
We'll draft the exception.
Another exception?
Add about 10 more words to that, Ricky, to make it really legal sounding.
Yes, sir.
10 more syllables in there.
Some whereases and therefores and herewiths.
Any other questions, comments? Yes, sir, Mr. Laverne.
Can I like y'all to consider getting the fire districts involved? There are sometimes these exercises that the firemen use.
Yeah,
We
that's
have that
addressed-
in there.
That's addressed.
Isn't that- Okay, I didn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it says nothing herein shall prevent controlled burns for drills of firefighting personnel. Item number 6, yeah, as an exception.
The only other problem I see in this thing is the enforcement of it. And usually we get into this situation, DPW, the first one, get called out on the weekend because somebody has a complaint of burning trash too close to the house. And then our people have to make a judgment call, go out there and handle it. And we don't have enforcement.
The only thing this
Powers.
ordinance does is create a misdemeanor. It makes it a criminal offense. There is
And-
no parish enforcement or code officer that has to do anything. We don't, and I would not recommend that we have to actually put out a fire. This only makes it a criminal act to
Right.
violate this law.
How is it enforced? As it is now, how would we go
The sheriff would
about?
issue a citation, and you'd be cited and brought to misdemeanor court, charged with a misdemeanor, and handled in
Alright.
court just like you would a speeding ticket.
It would be upon complaint.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And has this been discussed with the sheriff to see if,
I think we need to make sure
think
that
we
we
need to-
discuss this with the
right.
sheriff before we go. And we may be able to pass this, but we need to pass this with consultation with the sheriff. I would suggest that we have a good document here and that we could recommend sending it to the sheriff for any recommendations for enforcement. And we can pass it at the next strategic planning meeting so we can move forward.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I think we've cleared up a lot of things and everybody's in agreement.
I would also include the district attorney's office and the parish court in those discussions.
That's what I said.
You missed it.
That's what I said.
So our secretarial staff's going to take care of that, make sure it goes out.
Can you take care of that? Okay.
Thank you.
I keep wanting to say Suzanne. Okay. Item number 6, junk car ordinance. Mr. Hillenbeck.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think there's Maybe a couple of
Yes.
members of the audience that want to speak on this particular item.
We have public speaker card, Mr. Cherie Richard.
Recard.
Ricard, I don't want to say Richard.
Good evening. My name is Sherry Ricard, and I am a registered nurse and a resident of Ascension Parish. I'm here today to encourage you as parish leaders to create and pass and enforce an ordinance that provides regulation and removal of junk, inoperable vehicles, as well as appliances from public and private properties. A junk appliance shall mean, but is not limited to, the following: ice boxes, refrigerators, stoves, washing machines, hot water tanks, and other similar items that are in a state of disrepair. Junk vehicles shall mean any motor vehicle which meets one or more of the following conditions: is inoperable, dismantled, partially dismantled, or severely damaged. If the vehicle does not have a valid safety inspection, does not have a valid license plate. If the vehicle has one or more flat tires and have remained flat for a period of 48 hours. If the vehicle is leaking oil or other fluids. These rusted, inoperable, dilapidated vehicles and appliances are unsightly, unwanted, as well as dangerous. It creates a condition that reduces property values and surrounding adjacent properties. It can be easily declared a health and safety hazard. This nuisance creates heavy growth of weeds under and around vehicles and appliances. Breeding ground or habitat for mosquitoes, rats, mice, snakes, and other insects and rodents. Creates a point of collection for stagnant water, which also contributes to the unwanted pest. Has become a source of danger for children through entrapment in areas of confinement that cannot be opened from the inside. Has a danger of falling or turning over, and possible injury from exposure to surfaces of metal, glass, or other rigid materials. Creates a point of concentration for other junk, trash, as well as quantities of gasoline, oil, antifreeze, freon, and other flammable liquids that could contaminate our soil from petroleum products or other toxic liquids such as mercury. Mercury has been found in car switches for the cars that are 203 and older. These switches have the mercury that has been classified as hazardous material according to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. When a car switch is broken, mercury can spill out, seep into the soil, which rain can then carry the mercury into the groundwater and drinking water. This is dangerous toxic substance, can cause central nervous system damage, heart, kidney, lung, and immune system damage. It can also cause permanent damage to a child's developing nervous system and lead to learning disabilities. The EPA requires special handling of these switches before crushing junk vehicles, so why would we allow this danger to be so accessible to our curious child who might find this eyesore an attractive place to play? I ask the council respectively to incorporate this ordinance, like so many other communities in this country that want what we want for our fast-growing parish. To find it necessary and desirable to promote and enhance the quality of Ascension's attractiveness, the protection of our property values throughout our parish, the promotion of the comfort, happiness, and emotional stability of occupants of property in the vicinity of junk motor vehicles and appliances. The law does not require us to child-proof our property, but it expects people to be alert to potential dangers to others and follow steps to prevent harm. This danger should be removed and disposed of in a manner that is legal according to the EPA or preserved and locked in a garage, closed garage, out of public view and kept in a manner that is safe and applicable to the Louisiana state laws, which are very specific for junk card settings. Thank you all very much.
Discussion. Mr. McConnell.
Well, I thank Mr. Hillensbeck for bringing this forward from where?
Well, I went online.
1002.
Actually, I was emailed the website, and I went online and downloaded this particular ordinance.
Well, because we started working on this 2.5 years ago, and I guess what's the status? Because we came up with a document, we gave it to somebody. What happened to it?
Yeah, I got a comment on that. I can answer that. I think what we were given was the comments around the table, and of course, I think it came from Mr. Lambert, who's not here tonight, and I don't want to misspeak or put words in his mouth, but I think certain members around the table felt like what we were given, it was too cumbersome and maybe too much information, and they wanted something a little bit more simpler. And so this particular ordinance, I got offline, I'll just tell you where it came from, Horn Lake, Mississippi. I certainly didn't write it myself, because I'm not going to reinvent the wheel, but I did ask Mr. Babin to take a look at it before the meeting, and I'm not asking you to pass it tonight. I'm just asking you to consider this, and we need to move forward, and this is a simpler version. Now, are there some legal problems? I guess we need to hear from Mr. Babin.
Well, I thought that our building department had it.
I can clear that up. Basically, what
I
happened.
don't want to throw accusations on somebody.
Basically, what happened is that we've tasked them to come with us with a simpler version. When we talked about the junk car ordinance, they brought us a booklet with 9 ordinances in there. This being in the form of legal vocabulary, and no one was able to comfortably identify what each of the ordinances actually meant. So therefore, we sent it back through legal process to try to get someone to send it back to us with a condensed version of each one, so we can actually know exactly what it means and who enforces it and all of that. We have not received that, and so therefore Mr. Hillensbeck is going out and trying to get some more information. Mr. Rue.
And I have as I understand, the latest copy from our attorney. And you're right, it is multiple ordinances, but it is fairly simple to me. The fact of the matter is, every little detail of the ordinance is put as an ordinance. So you got the ordinance as how you declare a public nuisance, and so on and so forth. If you take all this out and just take the meat of each one and place it into one ordinance, you're not going to have you'll have about the same document, a size document, as this.
We just requested
but
something that was simple to define each of the ordinances and what they mean, and give it to us along with the ordinances so that we can look at it and identify what each of them means so we can move forward. We've asked for that 5 or 6 times, and 5 or 6 times in a meeting we've gotten the same ordinances back with no clarification, and we've told them to take it back and give us something again. And we wait 2 months and they give us the same ordinances back.
Mr.
So
Chairman.
we've been there to that point.
But let me also, I want to defend DPW and the legal people. I mean, everyone's had a lot going on the last year and a half, and so I don't want to sound like, or I don't want it to sound like that they're not cooperating, but I appreciate what they've done, the legal people have done. All I brought you tonight is a simpler version, but I'd like to hear from Mr. Babin is what I've brought. Does that address our needs as a parish? And if not, do we need to make some minor changes, or do we need to take?
My only problem is I have a car in my driveway that meets 4 of the 6 criteria for being a junk car. So I want to know whether they're going to pick it up and charge me a misdemeanor tomorrow.
We're going to go to your house and I'll build
yeah,
a garage
Several
around
of us
it.
out there may have to clean up our acts, you know.
And so I couldn't start it this morning, and I've got fluid leaking, and I got a flat tire.
Could I hear
I
from
just want to
legal?
Well, I have a question first.
Yes, sir.
I haven't read this. I just received it. How does it address those cars that are already here? I mean, obviously you're not going to grandfather in a junk car, but you certainly somebody's going to be busy. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to suddenly, all of a sudden make these people pick up something that's been in their car for been in the yard for 10, 20 years. Or you want it gone, you want it out of here. But how is it addressed in there, Doug? I haven't looked at that thing.
Well, there's a item number F that describes a junk vehicle, and I'll read it down if you
Well,
like.
I know
to
what a
read
junk
it for you.
vehicle looks like. I'm
Okay.
talking about if you have a junk vehicle in your yard, how long do you have to get it out of there?
Okay, enforcement.
Because a lot of people, I suspect, have them in their yard because they can't get them and they don't have the means to get them out of there. How much time are you giving them?
I read over it earlier, but I don't see it right now. I'll get my glasses on. Ascension Parish Sheriff's Office and the Parish of Ascension Planning Department will have the authority to enforce the provisions of this ordinance. Any owner, operator, or other person who violates any provision of this ordinance may receive a traffic citation or summons to court. Any vehicle, equipment, or trailer may be towed at the expense of the owner for violation of this for a violation of this ordinance, in addition to a citation or summons to appear in court. A citation or summons of this ordinance may be served by personal service or by the United States Registered
Okay,
Mail.
so, but when you say in there at the expense of the owner, is this one of those deals, kind of like the grass cutting thing, where we're
Yeah,
going
you
to
play
stick
current-
stick it on their
Put a lien
on the
property. Yeah.
the assessment or their
Right.
tax property
Right.
tax?
Well, I think it becomes a lien on the property if they, ever sell the property. The lien's got to be cleared.
A whole lot easier just to put it on their property taxes and collect it.
Either way,
Yeah.
either way.
I would suggest, we have a document that's a working
And I'm
document.
not asking you to approve it
And-
tonight.
and we can send it, we can send it to planning, and for suggestions, you can take a look at both of them, Bill, and give us some true recommendations next time, simplified version. This is something Mr. Hillingsbeck had looked at and feels is simple and workable, and if it meets our needs, give us some recommendation on this or the other ordinance, whichever one that you think can move forward with what we want to do.
We'll compare the two and give you our opinion
Okay.
at the next meeting, which way we should go with it.
Mr. Hillenbeck.
Yeah, just one question. I know Ricky looked at it before the meeting. Mr. Babin, I know you looked at it rather hurriedly, but did you see any apparent legal issues or problems that needs to be addressed, or?
Yes, sir, there's some things in there I don't understand why they're in there.
Okay.
There also, I think
Okay.
there needs to be more detail.
Yeah, I know
The
Mississippi
ordinance-
law is going to be different than Louisiana law. So.
I wouldn't want to say anything, but I think I need to. The ordinance that we gave you was not supposed to be or attempted to be complicated. But there's a difference between removing a vehicle that's on public property and going on someone's private property and taking a vehicle and removing it. So the ordinance that we drafted allows that to be done. But there's certain due process constitutional rights that are protected in the way it was drafted. It's very specific. It's specific on how it gets done, who you hire to do it, what procedure they use to file an application with the parish to become a record service to be able to do this, who pays for it, how is the times, all that's spelled out in the ordinance. So although it looks like it's a lot of procedural wrangling, it's done for a reason. That is to protect that person so that we have no exposure. Also, the ordinance that was presented to you only deals with vehicles. We've given you information as late April 24th, we gave out information asking for additional information from you as to what else would you want to include in it. If you need refrigerators, appliances, none of that's included in our ordinance. But if you want that, we need some indication from you that we want that. We started out with just vehicles, and that's what we gave to you. So if you want more than that, let us know. The ordinance that Doug gave us has refrigerators,
Yeah,
washing machines,
appliances.
basically, and a general catch-all phrase, which is rubbish, which I believe is to be like trash, garbage, things stacked up on the property. So, how
And
far do you want us
that's
to
the
take this
question
thing?
in general. Does this body wish to proceed with either just with junk cars, or do you want to proceed with junk cars and appliances?
I'm
Looking
okay
for
with
some
moving.
guidance. Okay.
Mr.
I'd
Chairman.
like to, yes.
The administration recommends, though, that we do it in the format that is the draft ordinance that was presented to you by our attorneys.
We've been fine with that, Mr.
So,
Rue. Just somebody explain to us
we
each
feel-
one, and we're fine.
As it deals with cars, we feel comfortable with this ordinance.
Well, I'm ready
If
to
in
adopt
fact you
what they
want
gave
this
us.
ordinance for cars.
Okay.
Again, I make a motion, we go ahead and accept what was previously given to us, as explained by Mr. Babbitt.
I have a motion and a second to recommend what was previously offered to us with an explanation tonight by Mr. Babin. Any discussion?
One other thing, Mr. Chairman, this is another issue that we need to discuss with the sheriff. Same as the burning ordinance, any ordinance that has to be
Enforced by the
enforced,
sheriff's
we
office.
need
That
to
was in
talk
my
to-
motion.
Okay. Before we take it to.
Do you know anybody that works for the sheriff's office?
A couple. And that's why I'm saying we definitely need to go and
Exactly.
and talk.
We had discussed that, and we want to make sure everything we do go through the sheriff's office. We
Mr.
would
Chairman,
like to, I'm sure your motion, it said
Included.
pending
Review by-
input and review from the sheriff's office.
Bill, you got 20 more Richard Throckmortons? You're going to need them.
For a while.
Yes. Any objections?
I object.
Okay, objection by Mr.
I just have a quick question. I wanted to make sure that what you said was that you were actually including the junk appliances as well into the ordinance.
No,
We're
what
going,
we voted on was
What,
the
what-
ordinance that was put forth before. We can go back and add
The
the
appliances.
appliances
Because they create
whenever.
the same exact nuisance as
whenever-
the junk cars.
This is going as a
DPW.
recommendation to the
Gotcha.
council, and then we can tack it on at the council.
Right.
Okay.
But we have something in place that only deals with junk cars right now, so we wanted to deal with something that was already written and in
Excellent.
place.
Thank you.
That motion is passed with one objection. Mr. Barringer. Billboard ordinance, Mr. Hillenbeck.
Oh, boy, yeah. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I brought this up previously. I'm getting calls from constituents about I call them the double-decker billboards. We got, I think, 3 locations now on Highway 42. I think there's one also on Gold Place Road. Is that correct, Laverne? Gold.
Intersection of Gold Place and 431.
Right, okay. And these billboards are quite large. I think it's the kind of thing you would expect to see maybe on an interstate highway, but not a 2-lane rural or a 2-lane parish road. And I think this is an issue that really needs to be addressed by planning and zoning. And so I would like maybe for us to consider a resolution that they take a look at this and come back and
there's more and more of them coming, even on 44 now, too.
right. Is that
That's correct. Mr. Helmsbeck contacted me about doing a revision to or doing a sign ordinance, and I advised Mr. Helmsbeck that our comprehensive plan of zoning, these guys behind me know, has a comprehensive set of rules about signs, how big they can be, where they're located, what zones are in, commercial, on-site, off-site. They have already in place a set of rules. So as not to make this thing confusing to the point that it's unenforceable, I suggested to Mr. Helmsbeck that you send a resolution to zoning to allow them to work up a set of changes that will correspond to the already existing zoning code. So I did not want to just
Mike, can you
adopt
take,
a
can you
rule
take
that
something like
conflicted
this
with-
and take a look at it and come up with some recommendations that meets the criteria?
We have our zoning subcommittee meeting next week, and I'll put it on that agenda.
Okay.
right? A question for legal, Mr. Chairman. Whatever they pass and come up with, I guess the existing signs that are out there will be grandfathered until such time maybe the lease runs out, and then when the lease runs out, if it's 5 years, 10 years, then have to come back to whatever conforms to the what planning and zoning comes up with.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay. Do we have to give y'all a formal resolution on that, or you can just take it up as a request? Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think we need a formal resolution. Thank you, Mike. Update on adjudicated properties. Mr. Laverne Bourgeois, this is something that we've been kicking around for about 18 months, and we just want an update. See when we're going to put this behind us.
I wish I could have a little bit more to give you at this time, but I think at this time we'll go ahead and move forward with adjudicate properties. Last time I had an attorney come here, it wasn't just talk to you, to the council here about adjudicate properties, but we had a couple more meetings with O'Neill Perriton and Lance Brock, and we had like a stumbling block. But as of today, we're going to go forward and go ahead and hire our attorney to go ahead and start the adjudicate property program in Ascension Parish.
Well, that is fantastic. Just let us know if there's anything we have to do to make this happen and go smoother.
I'm looking forward to having it done.
Okay.
We don't have to do anything. I mean, the parish president has the authority
Yes.
to
Right.
hire that. So.
And before, we was a little bit confused about how it's going to happen, but now we know how it's going to, we don't go ahead and go forward with it.
You go, boy.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And that's one thing off of our agenda. Update from URS on their projects in the parish. Mr. Mike Paterno, who was not able to make it tonight, Mr. Ken Israel is going to take his place.
Good evening. I'm going to present just a list of some of the projects that we're working on for the Ascension Parish government, and includes working with Camp Dressel McGee on Henderson Bayou drainage study, the Laurel Ridge levee extension, working with BKI on the pump station study, have coordinated on preliminary plans for the jail expansion. We're working with BKI on the 2000 roadway construction, of which a work order was issued July 12th. They've already started doing some pipe installation on some of the roads. We worked with DPW on the 2006 road program. We prepared the master roadway program for Transportation Committee and a detailed financially constrained list of projects for the proposed half-cent sales tax that was Transportation Committee was asked to put together, and worked on with the administration on the impact fee proposal. We've reviewed the retaining wall plans that failed and wrote a report giving recommendations of why it failed. We worked with right-of-way acquisition on many different projects throughout the parish, assisted DPW on getting the 404 permit extension. We met with the Corps of Engineers last week and preparing some information for DPW on getting this, to help DPW get this extension of the 404 permit. And we're working with the design consultants on the road construction program and the intersection improvement program. These are just a brief list of the projects that we're working on. Sorry, I did not have a formal report, and somebody from URS will have a formal report next month.
Mr. Paterno called me and apologized. He couldn't make the meeting tonight. He was prepared to make a formal report, and he said at least every other month he would be able to make a formal report about what, to try to keep us up to date on what URS is doing for the parish, so that we can ask questions on anything that we have questions about. So
any time y'all have a
Mr.
question,
McConnell.
please give me a call.
Lake Park subdivision. I'm going to hold your feet to the hot asphalt until you put that hot asphalt on the roads of Lake Park subdivision. They were promised, they were supposed to start laying asphalt July of 2005. This is the 2005 road project. We were told July 2005 they were going to lay asphalt. It's now July 2006, and I think they're starting to go out and survey it now.
Yeah,
Would you please check on that and
Yes,
get
I
me an
will.
update tomorrow or the next day?
Will do.
On Lake Park subdivision, which is right off of 431 at Airline Highway in Brittany.
Will do.
Thank you, sir.
In
Mr.
addition to
Ellenbeck.
that, while we're talking about that, what we're
excuse me.
actually going to do is put together a schedule of all the roads and adjust the schedule as needed, but give a copy of that to the Transportation Committee and the council members so they can see the different roads and the possible time
that would be greatly appreciated.
wherever we're going to get to certain projects.
Okay. Mr. Hillenbeck.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Israel, Laurel Ridge Levee Extension.
Yes, sir.
If you look at the Follett study of 1982, and by the way, I gave a copy of that to Ozzie. I asked him to put that on the parish website so the voters could see it. There's a small section of levee, which is the extension that is not complete, and that's the area from vicinity of the end of Gold Place Road to end of Prince Road. That is the extension. Okay, I'm pointing that out because the new levee that is being proposed to Summerfield is not the Laurel Ridge Levee Extension. Can we come up with a different name of this levee? Does that run along the Lake Ridge? Is that right, Mr. Rue? Or does that run, I know it runs behind, I believe, Lake Martin,
The initial proposal is to go up to the Lake Martin Ridge and not to Summerfield. And the whole idea was we're looking at linear feet. So the linear feet are going from the Follett planned extension is roughly or just a little bit less than the new proposal of going to the Lake Ridge. But if you go to the Lake Ridge, you have to protect a number of people that's actually flooding right now, where the other way you would not. So, but on that issue, the actual determination of where the proposed levee will be is under evaluation right now. There's 3 routes, and it's going to be up to the Corps of Engineers and our consulting engineer with URS to come to some kind of agreement on which is the one that we're going to push, and which we'll push to the Drainage Board to accept. So we really don't know.
And we'll let you name it.
We really don't know which one it is. So all of them are extensions of the Laurel Ridge levee.
Well, and I realize that, and of course I remind you all at the last meeting, after 8 months of me bringing this out, Mr. Savoy did make the statement. He finally admitted that that this levee was not in the plan, as he'd been saying all along. This is not in the plan, and so I'm.
Point of order,
I'm
Mr. Chairman. This is not a drainage board meeting. It's an update. We'll finish the update. Let's move on.
Mr. Chairman, I think I have the floor. May I finish, please?
Yes, he is right. Go ahead and stick to what we're doing.
Okay.
And
I'm simply asking for
this.
a name to come up with something other than Laurel Ridge Levee, because that is not the Laurel Ridge Levee extension.
Mr. Rue has answered that question and said that whenever they come up with an area, they will put a name to it. So we'll.
And again, after 8 months, Mr. Savoy has finally admitted that's not in the Follett plan.
Okay.
However, for a year now.
For the record, Mr. Hillensbeck, everybody agrees.
Yeah,
it is
okay, it's not in the plan.
But that's not why we're
But
doing
when we shifted $13 million, we said we're going back to the plan.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
If anybody has any questions.
The only other thing is we had some reports on, like, the failed walls.
Yeah,
and
there were
where did
several
that
other
go?
things that I'm not as familiar with at this point in time. By the next meeting.
Could you ask that we're brought up to date as the status of all those things?
Correct. Will do.
Mr. Chairman, on
Yes.
that issue, that's a litigation issue, so I think they're working through Mr. Babin on what we're going to do about the walls.
Okay.
So I think this needs to go through Ricky, through Mr. Babin on any kind of reports.
Just whatever they are, just bring us up to date on them. That's all we want. Okay. Number 10, we have a PowerPoint presentation, and Ozzie, if you would excuse us for a second and I would like to move number 11 up because Mr. Babin has someplace to go, and I'd like to have him here for this discussion. So we're going to change 11 and 10. Property line settlement, courthouse east, and library. Mr. Quintmore, can you bring everybody up to date so we can make a decision on this?
The reason we're here, as you know, the Gonzales Library is going to do some improvements and extend their property. And the architect asked me to draw the property lines. Well, there are no property lines. The parish owns from the Armory on Irma to the other side of this courthouse. So when we're here tonight, we would like to try to solve it. I talked with Don Hassel on it. We think the way to solve it is maybe a memorandum of understanding, because for Mr. Chauvin to do his work, I have to give him some definite lines of what the library property is. Now, why that's important, the parish maintains the park and the courthouse with their money, and the library maintains their property with library money. But we have no clear line of demarcation between the two properties. And I'm using the word property like it was a sale. It's not a sale. Ascension Parish owns it all. Right. So we thought this would be a good starting point to try to come up with a line of demarcation so I can give Mr. Chauvin, you can work within these lines. Some years ago, we did a survey for the library board, many years ago, matter of fact, and it extended into the current park. Well, when they improved the park, they, quote, took some of the property back. When we did the courthouse improvements, we moved into the library property as shown on the 1978 drawing of the library building. So we're here tonight just to bring you up to date, good starting point. But we need to know what's going to be the courthouse property, what's going to be the library property, and what's going to be the park property. And Angel has some drawings, and we also look at it from a liability standpoint. And if you look at that little drawing she's made, this is basically what the library would like. Remember, you own it all. There is no, per se, property line. We just need a memorandum of understanding what they're going to maintain and what you're going to maintain and what they can build on. And the only thing that's kind of concerning, if you notice that curved line in the upper left-hand corner, that's the what amphitheater, I believe. I'm looking at Mr. Shaheen's drawing for the parish. This was
That's
in
a Chauvin on my copy.
I don't think that's the amphitheater. I think that's that walkway where they used to have the little moving Vietnam wall. The amphitheater's on the other side of the park property.
Well, the curve at the top on the left is that curve part that comes out is actually where the amphitheater
Is that the edge of the amphitheater all the way back over there?
Oh, yeah, I think you're right. You're right. It's that back,
So
Do you want to? What would be the problems of having that being with the library as opposed to the park?
Well, probably at this point in time, what happened was when the amphitheater was built, to get it into the proper size that it needed to be, it encroached onto library property, and I mean that in the most positive way, because they did talk to the board about it when it occurred. But it is a portion of the property that's now maintained by the parish. So probably at this point in time, Mr. Cointmore would need to make adjustments to that piece.
I would like us to entertain a motion to establish, to recommend that administration take a look at this and recommend a line of demarcation for these properties so that we
Pending
can
legal
move forward.
review. Let's let legal look at it as well. Yeah.
I'll make that motion.
I'll make that motion,
Second.
Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Mr. McConnell, second by Mr. Barringer to,
Hillsback.
I'm sorry, Mr. Hillsback, to ask administration to recommend a line of demarcation on these properties, so so that we can move forward and bring that back. Mr. Babbitt.
Do you want to see it again, or will you go to the council and give the parish president full authority to sign any and all documents to get it completed, or do you want to see those lines of demarcation before we execute final documents?
I don't think I need to see it. I don't think.
Yeah, in my opinion, I mean, the library needs what they need, and parish owns it all. Whenever we figure out what they need, that's what they get.
I think we would allow the administration to make all decisions necessary for these lines to be appropriate for the entities.
and for the parish president to execute any and all documents necessary
That's what we just
for a
said.
memorandum
Mr.
of
McConnell
understanding
just said.
between the various public entities to facilitate those lines of demarcation.
Exactly.
Thank you.
That was Mr. McConnell's
And then if-
motion, word for word,
That goes to the full council?
and we have to go to the full council with this, or?
Yes, sir. This committee cannot take any action.
Right.
Right, just let the administration
We'll
bring
make
it
a
back,
recommendation.
and then we can ratify any action of the administration, right?
Either way, you can just let the administration do it, or you can bring it to the council at your next meeting, and the council can approve it, send it to the council to do the lines of demarcation, and sign any and all documents necessary. Either way.
I would like to grant the president the authority to do that as we
that was
stated.
all part of the motion.
And would you put that in the form of a resolution at the next council meeting so that we can vote on that?
And,
Any other questions or comments? Discussion?
got enough sawhorses to go around it? I'm just kidding.
Okay. Any opposition? No opposition, the motion passed. Okay, now, Mr. Osborne, PowerPoint presentation.
That's right, I'm going to be the only
Thank
one
you.
who never did a PowerPoint up here.
This presentation is the same presentation I gave y'all in Donaldsonville at the council meeting, and it's basically a recap of the money spent on the Ascension Channel 21 project from the time that we took over and started doing the television production. And this shows, in a nutshell, basically all the money that's been spent by my department. The name of the presentation is all about the Benjamins, and this is your government access channel dollars at work. The thing that's most important is the separation between what I've spent and what was spent on this courthouse project. The courthouse project was an ongoing project that has been passed on time and time again, and we finally came down to the last phase where we actually started doing it. And in that project, the council, Mike, it should work. The council the project went out for public bid. The public bid was given to a contractor, and the contractor was given the right to do the project. And the only way you can get paid is by sending out a memorandum for billing. And that memorandum is basically a document for application for payment. It's not an invoice. So the monies that are allocated on that form aren't necessarily the monies that were spent. And so the dollar figure for audio and video is not broken down by an itemized list of things. It's basically a lump sum that he allocated for that phase of the project. So it includes a lot of things that are not necessarily tangible, which would include labor, equipment, markup for his profit, any kind of things that would be unrelated to audio and video that he termed to be part of that phase of the project, like wiring and whatnot. So we really don't know how much of that money was actually spent on audio and video equipment, but I did a little bit of research based on the itemized list of equipment that we do have, which was submitted in the bid package, and I took out all of the equipment that was relative to the audio-video system. That includes all audio-video, which is the video presenter, the microphones, speakers in the room, everything that we would have had to do what we do in this room, even if we weren't doing television. And I added it all up, and the total cost of that equipment was $224,000. And so it's significantly less than the $316,000. And when you break down the actual equipment that we use for audio and video to do television, the equipment total is only $112,000. So that pretty much sums up the money that was spent in the courthouse project to do the, yes?
Can I ask a question? So again, that all these dollars, these $316,051, all this was budgeted prior to us even coming into office.
Right, that was part of the courthouse project.
Right.
And
It's
the
goes
number
back to what, the previous or maybe two administrations back?
Right, and the
Yes.
number, again, is only what he put on his request for payment. It doesn't tell you how much he actually spent. So in reality, the total cost of the project is what was bid on. We issued the project to the lowest bid. Once he got the project, he basically divided it into different pieces. And for invoicing, he didn't have to itemize anything. He just basically submitted this request for payment, and it was broken into phases. So he has like a paint phase and interior phase, carpeting, and it's broken down by those general criteria. And audio and video is all lumped together, which includes a lot more than just audio and video. It includes some networking for computers. It includes the wiring for the lighting system, some control systems for controlling the lighting and stuff, and they're considering that audio and video. Is that clear?
Any questions or anything?
Okay. We'll go back to the PowerPoint. Okay, so the manufacturer suggested retail price is the maximum price we would expect to pay for all this equipment. So even the dollar figures that you're seeing here are inflated to the extreme that probably a contractor doesn't pay suggested retail for any of this equipment, probably pays substantially less. And in fact, some of the equipment we got wasn't actually new equipment, so there's some problems that are related to that I'm dealing with, but probably it would turn into lawsuits down the road, but it would take years to solve those problems, so I'm just working through them. But we did get some equipment that wasn't necessarily what we expected. In my budget, what I asked for, based on the Strategic Planning Committee, I was in all the meetings from day one on this topic, and Kent was asking me for an itemized list of what I needed to get television done. So I put together that list, and that includes all of the hardware for doing broadcast television. That includes editing PCs, cameras and accessories for the cameras, tripods, batteries, production switchers for doing mixing in the post-production of any of the filming that we were doing, character generator for our web-based filler content on the television station, so when there's not a meeting playing, there's something going on in the background that gives information to the public. We also have video recorders, videotape decks that we use to record some of these things so that we have a master copy for backup and stuff. All that equipment plus the video server that runs all this stuff so that we can play stuff back 24 hours a day on the television station is what I asked for, and that was a total of $62,500, I believe. And in that hardware, the total cost that I actually spent was only $51,000. That $51,000 wasn't all the money I spent, though. I also spent some money on labor, and the labor, when you bundle it in, came up to about $9,600. That money totaled out to a grand total of $61,000, which is still less than the $62,500. So it kind of shows my budgeting skills there for what I asked for. I asked for $62,500, and I spent less than that. That was in 2005. In 2006, we haven't gone all the way through the year, but these numbers are based on what I got from finance all the way through 5/31/06, and all grand total for hardware, software, supplies, training. I want to remind everybody this is the first time we did all this stuff, so we've never done broadcast television before, and we never had all this equipment to use and stuff, so we were purchasing equipment for the first time and getting up to speed on using it, and all that money totaled out to $10,595. The labor up to that point was only $18,734. The grand total of television expenses through the 5/31 date was $29,310. We're going to be doing a lot of things, and these are just some of the things that we're currently doing. These are the meetings that are held in this room. So anytime a meeting is held in this room, we cover it, and we also additionally cover the meeting in Donaldsonville. The one in Donaldsonville is the most labor intensive because we have, for every hour of videotape that we film, there's about 3 to 4 hours of post-production for that film, and we do 2 cameras, so you've got to multiply that by 2. So long story short, the longer those meetings are, the more time it takes us to do the production on it, and basically it throws us back on our schedule so that we have less time to do other stuff. But these are a lot of meetings, and to date, I counted up the total hours of stuff that we have published in our video archive. It was about 113 hours of productions that we've done since we took over back in November. So it was when we started filming them ourselves. So that's a significant amount of hours, and that's just meetings only.
Ozzie, and your department has done this with no additional staff. It's not like you. Am I correct? There's been no additional.
No, I asked for one position, and that was approved by the council to fund one position until we had a permanent position to fill for a video producer, and that person is still working as a temporary employee through Lofton Staffing, and we intend on making that a permanent position as soon as we can get all the
So
proper
basically,
procedures
what
in
I'm
place.
trying to say is you've absorbed this huge undertaking to
Yeah,
provide this to
the
the public.
majority of this is something that I don't really worry about because I'm this way and I'm not going to change probably. So I pretty much do all of this stuff through charity. I come in from my normal work hours, and then after hours I do this as basically gratis. I have a work ethic that my dad gave me a long time ago, and I can't get rid of it. So yeah, I have done all this with no compensation. I work my normal salary. I'm a salary employee, so there's no way to pay me for overtime, so I just do this. I also have one employee that does a real good job, Trent Woodard. He also is part of our video production team, and he works as a regular technician all day long. He doesn't do television stuff. So when the meetings happen, he comes with us, and we might have several hours a week that he ends up getting paid overtime for doing those productions with us. But that's pretty much it. We don't have a large crew. We do a lot of production stuff with the one person we have, and when we need help, I have cross-trained a lot of my employees to be able to help out when it's necessary. So we may have a situation where we need 2 cameras and we only have one guy, so we send somebody that normally does database stuff to go handle the camera work.
So your staff is doing the normal GIS, and you've undertaken or taken on the television responsibility.
Right. Well,
that's been absorbed is the point I'm getting to.
Absolutely, but the main thing is that we had written a 5-year plan, or I wrote a 5-year plan over 5 years ago that was to incorporate the broadcast television resources into my department. Whether we were doing it for APTV or we were doing it just for in-house needs, we were going to need this stuff anyway. And so we've basically fulfilled our 5-year plan to be able to have that equipment available so that we can do stuff in-house. Like there's projects, there's a lot of good stuff going on in parish government. A lot of times we only hear about the negative stuff and the stuff that makes the papers, but in reality, every single day, there's things that are going on in parish government that we want to report on, and the best way to do that is with video. So when we have a project going on at DPW, we go out and we'll film the footage. We may not show you the footage today, but we have it on file so that when we put together the master project for a 21 on 21, which is a little show that features a segment of parish government at work, we can show you that footage and let you see what's going on while somebody's talking about all the projects they're doing. And we've done a lot of that kind of filming, but we haven't actually finished the production on it. And the reason is because all those productions take second fiddle to the meetings that we cover. So the more meetings we have, and the longer it takes us to produce those meetings, the further it puts us behind on those other projects. But as we speak, we have put all the pieces in place to make it possible that from this room, when you leave this room, we have everything we need to have zero post-production work. We're actually filming this live. We're archiving it to our video server as we speak. At the same time, it's going on live to everybody at home. And we have the potential to burn a DVD while we're doing this. And when we leave the room, we can take the DVD and the master tape with us. So there is basically no reoccurring work if everything is done in this room once we have everything working on all 8 cylinders. But we're still battling some problems that are keeping us from being able to do all those things concurrently. But we're doing 2 of the 3 or 2 of the 4, and we're hoping within the next couple of weeks we'll have the ability to do all 4 of them, which will free up a lot more production time for doing those other projects. So the goal was always to have the in-house resources to do video production, to do things like we did last week. There was a training session at DPW for finance department to do a requisition system that's on AS400, and it's kind of technical, and so they had a training session, and we filmed that training session during the course of the work day. And we're going to put together a training tape so that people that come into work in parish government down the road that didn't have opportunity to be trained on this system will be able to watch this video and put it to good use, and we'll be able to retrain and cross-train people that don't have access to the actual training process. So these are all things that we intended to do 5 years ago. It's coming to be real right now because we have the resources. So the ultimate goal is to have the resources, and I think that you guys have been gracious in giving us everything we need to make that happen.
And one thing about it, we do have monies dedicated to this and for production and such that. And so if you need to do things, and I know, you had a full-time job before,
yeah,
and now you got another full-time job, and so let's be realistic.
It's kind of
And
fun, though, so it's not so bad.
You know, Mr. Rue, can you get with them and make sure there's compensation where appropriate, and that if we have to hire someone else, we have monies available and budgeted for that we can do this and not stress any of the technology department.
There's some other things going on that I want to share with you that they're going to help out with all that. We're in the process of acquiring a temporary building so that we have space to work. Right now, everything that's being done is being done in close quarters, and we're sharing space. And it's not the most efficient way of doing things, because people will, up until a week ago when we moved offices, everybody was walking past the video producer while he's doing production stuff to get to the cooler to get a drink of water, and people going in and out of the GIS department had to go past that. So we're tight on space. We're making the best of what we got, but we're trying to acquire a temporary building to solve that problem. Once that temporary building is in place, it's going to give us a studio that's going to allow us to do other productions besides what we already have available. Plus, we're going to have some video editing suites to allow other people to work on things without interfering with the other people. And we'll have 4 video editing suites in that temporary building. Our goal is to have student interns. The high school is willing to participate. We've already got a commitment from Donald Sanjay, and the goal is for us to get student interns to come in and use their enthusiasm and their energy that they have as students in the broadcast journalism. They're going to try to set up an academy that will start to foster more and more people that are interested in this type of stuff, with the long-term goal of having them intern with us and help us out with labor so that we don't have to spend any money on labor, because they'll come in as an intern and help out our video producers, so we won't have any overtime hours at that point. These people will be doing it as a quid pro quo for allowing us to train them and use these other tools that we have available in our resources at the studio. So there's a lot of good things that we're working towards that we're not currently in possession of, and the monies that are allocated, we're not spending them unless we need them. But the fact that they're available is the great thing, because when we need to make those kind of decisions, we're not going to have to come back to y'all because the monies are already available.
Yeah, Randy, on that issue of that broadcast journalism academy, I think they're trying to set that up at East Ascension.
Yes.
And I know Principal Watts is in favor of that, and he's working toward that. To help address your space issue, what you might be able to do is work with Superintendent Sanji about maybe the use of a portable building.
Well, we met with him
through an intergovernmental agreement to kind of help offset some of the costs.
We did already try that. We did that last month. Betty Robert and myself met with Donald Sanjay, and they're actually acquiring more temporary buildings this year. So they're buying more of them or leasing more of them so that they can put them to use. So they don't have any buildings available at all, period. They're actually
I know they've had an intergovernmental agreement, and they've been providing one to the sheriff's office for years.
They're acquiring more. They don't have any available, so they would have to get us one to share the cost. But it didn't seem like they were interested in the meeting that we had. They were
just continue to pursue that. I think it's obviously the general consensus of the council that we want to work with the school system and forward that so we can have a program. I know we met last year with everyone involved, and we want this to move forward. Right. Give us some recommendations as to how we can do that and what we need to do to make this happen.
We're putting good use of the resources that are currently available, and we're trying to expand to be able to do more of this stuff. And I'm going to get into further of what this stuff is. I have an outline of all the things that we're potentially going to be working on that are in addition to what we're already doing. So if you want to go back to the PowerPoint, I can continue and show you that. These were the meetings, again, that we covered. There's over 60 meetings in the last 12 months that we've done. In the past, they only covered 2 meetings, the regular meetings, and that was it. So we've increased the amount of meetings and the overall production. The return on the investment for all this, I kind of talked about it a little bit already, so I'll just go through this pretty quickly, is that we've got an automated 24-hour programming system to put things on the air. Now that means that we don't have to man it. All we have to do is program it and let it go. And that can be down to a day-by-day schedule or a weekly schedule or every other day or Monday through Friday and separate on the weekends. But all of it's totally configurable and programmable, so we have a lot of flexibility there. We're not using more than one day of programming right now. We're repeating it, so that's kind of repetitive. But as we get more and more content available to put on the channel, we'll start breaking it up into a schedule of things and give more breaks in between so that more community bulletin board stuff will be available if there is community bulletin board stuff on there. And we intend on getting a lot more of that from outside agencies. The master library that we have in place allows us to go back to these tapes and find the best quality video if somebody needs to have a segment for another project or something. We have that in our master library. We're intending on rotating those tapes, though, so the cost right now is as high as it'll ever be, and down the road we'll be recycling these tapes and using them over again, because you can use them again and again, and they don't have a problem with that. In fact, a lot of people will use them one time before they use them for their master tapes so that they actually have better stability. The media, for some reason, some people like to blank them out. We're not doing that. We're just using them and stocking them up in our library. We also have a web-based archive in place, which means you can go to our website and download these meetings on demand, and those arrive pretty quickly. Now that we're able to do it live, the source file is available immediately after we leave this room, and then we just go back and re-encode that. We have a piece of equipment in that room in there that once we have an internet connection, we can hook up live and actually stream it real time, and we don't have that post-production. DVDs, we're producing DVDs of every meeting. We have those stacked up in the cupboard waiting for the rules to be put in place, and we're going to give those to Angel to archive at the library. We have live coverage in place. We have the resources to do in-house production. And based on the spending of 2005 and 2006, our costs are actually going down. That number, the smallest number is this year, but it's probably going to be equal or a little bit more based on the labor. And the labor is the highest cost of all this process right now because we already have the equipment in place. But based on all that, our TV production costs are significantly less than they've been in previous years. We have coverage and deliverables that have expanded. We have production quality that's improved, and access is more timely. What's on the horizon for us? We're going to be doing stuff with the school board. We're going to be doing stuff with the clerk of court's office, the assessor's office, sheriff's office, voter registrar, public library, economic development, Donaldsonville, Gonzales, Sorrento, Tourist Commission, and other agencies that are funded by tax dollars. That's basically government television. So any of these agencies will be able to sponsor shows, and I got a quick list of some of the shows. This is the meat and potatoes that will make that real. Some of these shows are just ideas and concepts, but any of them can become real, and once they're sponsored by one of those agencies, whether we fund them by, like Kent said, spending some of the money that we have available for production is something that we have to look at. But I think that once we get these kids involved and stuff, a lot of stuff is just going to happen with the labor from our student interns and stuff. But this is just a quick list of things that we can do. We're soliciting additional ideas from all these agencies and trying to put as much stuff into the mix as we can to get the channel filled up.
Yeah, Randy. Yeah, thank you. Randy, your information on the cost certainly sets the record straight. And I think it contradicts what was stated at the last meeting by a private citizen that did not have the figures right, did not have their facts right.
Well, she might have been looking at some of the information out of context or didn't understand the budget and stuff. I do the budget, so I know what I have spent and I know what I'm trying to do, and I can go line item by line item and actually factor it up. So my figures are probably the most accurate.
In fact, I had even stated we had spent over $65,000, and I was off. I think we'd only spent $61,000 at the time. So, but I appreciate you putting this together, and I think the public needs to see it once again, the truth and the facts.
That's no problem.
So thank you for bringing it tonight.
Any questions about anything I've told you tonight? I'd be willing to entertain. Thank
Any
you.
other questions, comments?
Good presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Number 12, discussion on parish planner, and this is something that we've been discussing as a council for as a parish being in the growing mode as we are, and someone from the parish that overlooks the whole scope, the whole ball of wax whenever we are expanding. And I've discussed this with Mr. Rue. And Mr. Rue, can you inform us as to where we are on a parish planner? Because it was generally agreed upon by everybody involved that we needed to have one.
Yes, well, we are actively looking for a planner at this time to supplement up the planning department. This person to deal with present and future planning issues, coordinating the certain ordinances or regulations that should be put in place, readjusting the zoning for, or what we anticipate the readjustment should be in another year, couple years when we have to go through rezoning. But again, we are actively looking for a planner at this time.
Okay. With that in mind, you want to inform them about your proposal for reorganization?
Yes, sir. Passing out a proposal, and I sent this to all council members via the email today. If you haven't had time to see it, this is the exact same thing that was sent earlier. As you know, a month or two ago, whatever it was, DPW put planning under the umbrella of DPW for the time being to evaluate what would be the best reorganization, if a reorganization is needed, to make sure that the work and projects are moved forward, and things that is needed to be changed are changed, and we put certain things in effect that would benefit the parish. If you look at this, what we're proposing is to adjust the planning department. If you look at the last page, the planning department will become a larger department in administration. It will encompass the director of zoning and also as an assistant director of planning, chief building official as assistant director of planning, also in charge of all permitting and building issues. Chief engineer, all engineering will come under director of planning and development, and also all consulting engineers and all capital projects. So all of this will be encompassed under the administration of the Director of Planning and Development. The reason for this is that especially over the last couple of months, that I have discovered the fact that more than anything else, engineering and consulting and capital projects need to be working hand in hand with development issues, zoning, and planning. Actually, the engineering, especially with transportation and review agents and project engineers and Corps of Engineers, we put all this together, it really has more impact on the development of the parish than it does purely with DPW. Right now, because when we put everything under the umbrella of DPW in the last month or so, we have really concentrated on meeting with developers, especially with subdivision issues, reviewing pre-construction meetings, and again, more involved with it. And we have discovered that the more that we are involved, the better the project is. Engineering needs to be involved with this because some of our primary problems has to do with engineering of subdivision, infrastructure of subdivisions. So it seems just logical that if you put all of this together, that we could handle, as with all capital projects, because in essence, a subdivision development is a capital project. Eventually, the parish will take it over. And so we must be involved with it from the get-go, just like we do a road project or a drainage project, to make sure that it comes out the way it's desired and that we have a quality project at the end. What we're proposing is actually the Department of Public Works goes back to basically what it was several years ago, up to the year 2000, and that is operations. Up until the year 2000, the director of DPW was primarily involved with operations. Any kind of major projects was done by the consulting engineering firm, who had sole responsibility from A to Z to handle those projects. And what we're looking at doing is, because there's so much, and the operations segment of DPW has grown so much, that it makes it a logical move to separate it alone, and DPW will be known as DPW Operations, with a DPW director, answerable to the parish president and the council and the drainage board on operation matters. All capital projects, again, would go through planning and development and be controlled by that director. So again, this is just for you to review. We like some input from the council members, talk about it, discuss it. We feel that this is a better move, that if you're going to separate a department off, it's best to separate DPW from the operations from capital projects, because both of them are enormous, and it would be a natural move. And again, putting the engineering and capital projects under planning would help that process, because we need to coordinate those two. All capital projects need to be coordinated with developments and drainage and zoning and planning issues. So this is our suggestion. Again, it's for review and comments, and I welcome any tonight and at any other time.
One thing that I think sticks out a little bit is that there's nothing on utilities here. I know we're getting more and more into some type of utilities.
If you get into, as we get a utility department, the utility operations will come under DPW. Now, as it is right now, it's wastewater and utility construction or capital projects. We will be in that for a good while. But the sole, I guess, operations of some of your plants right now will come under DPW, because that's operations. But any kind of capital investment into those systems would be handled through.
I think we're taking in a number of sewage projects and some water projects and things, and let us know as soon as you get to the point that we need to have a utilities department so that we can.
Now, it's a little bit of a difference in the administration of what we're doing right now, because actually we say we keep those people that's inspecting and monitoring our plants under the engineers.
Okay.
Because of the fact that they're not out there actually doing a lot of maintenance on it. They're doing the inspection and monitoring, for DEQ, and making recommendations as far as updates to the system and stuff like that. They're more of inspectors than they are of operation
Day-to-day
technicians, where they actually go out there and work on things and change pumps out. They do some of that, but mostly it's inspection. And we looking at keeping all inspectors under development, plan and development, because most of those inspectors deal with subdivisions.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? All right. Number 13, new business. One of the things is we wanted our report from planning and zoning. Mr. Bardwell.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We didn't have any preliminary subdivisions before us this past month. We had a couple family partitions, couple simple divisions, couple final inspections. We did, one thing is that's important that's coming before y'all as a council. We have an ordinance update to the subdivision ordinances regarding the use of technology and status update reports. You should be getting those in the packet probably for the next meeting. Those changes deal with implementing technology. Just going on to elaborate a little further, how right now currently it's not required that anybody submits plats electronically. So the planning layer of the GIS system is currently not being developed the way it should be. This is going to allow developers, surveyors to submit their plats electronically to the technology department, so all this can be put into the GIS system. The second thing dealt with the status update reports, and this is just going on to say when we're going to, the ordinances are already as such to where after 6 months we should be, there's trigger events already in place. The problem was we wasn't getting necessary updates in all cases, so that's the ordinances have been revised to include some of that, so y'all be seeing that.
And Mr. Bardwell, please, when you send it to Suzanne, the secretary, ask her to put it on strategic planning so we can take a look at it and send it on to the council. Some of them Some of them have gone directly to the council.
I think that's the
And
way
it
it
just-
states, it goes to the council. Anything with that, I mean, any recommendations from planning and zoning, the way the ordinances are written, they're submitted to the council that way.
Well, what ends up happening is the council on all of these things goes to committee, and so it saves us time that we don't have to go back down to go to a council meeting, go back to committee, and from there. So that's, when they say go to the council, that's our process. It goes to committee, and then it goes to actual council meeting.
Okay.
So just transfer that back down. That's the process that we use for everything. And that'll streamline it and let us get things done a little quicker.
Okay.
We appreciate everything you do. Any other
Nope, that's it.
Any other new business? Old business? Motion by Mr. McConnell to adjourn. Everybody agrees.